Nick, what are you doing still up?
Balatro.
Hello, my children. Your father has brought you a new nail art video. And if you can't tell from the bags under my eyes, I've been staying up a little too late playing Balatro recently, so I figured it was time to make some nail art inspired by it. You might have heard of Balatro because it's recently taking the world by storm, and if you don't know what it is, it's a video game that's roughly based on poker, but there's so many other aspects of it, like multipliers and things that add to your score and special things and ever-changing rules that just make each run more and more exciting. But it also has a roguelike element built into it where you just have to keep going again and again and again, and an ending of a game is not really the ending of the game, and it just kind of encourages you to keep going and playing until 2 in the morning. The one time I went to a casino, I brought $20, put it into a slot machine, lost all of it immediately, and vowed to never gamble again. And so that's why I really didn't think I was gonna like it, but enough people in my life were telling me to try it, and before we knew it, husband and I were playing for 4.5 hours. Literally, I close my eyes and I see the cards. I find it so addicting because each match is super quick, and when you lose, the new game button is right there, and it works. It's a card. I have a vague idea for the nail art that I want to do inspired by the game, but I don't really know what it is yet, so I'm gonna figure that out as I go along and take you all for the journey. So let's go! So in case you didn't notice, it's a different night. Instead of painting right after filming the opening, I ended up going to play more Balatro, so it's a few days later after I painted yesterday, and I'm gonna walk you through what I did. For the first try, yes, the first try, I wanted to try making nail stickers for each suit in a typical playing card deck. To do that, place a blob of polish on the silicone mat and use your smallest nail art brush to carefully draw each design. I placed my finger near where I was painting in order to size the sticker and get a better sense of scale, because sometimes they can get a little too big if you don't do that. But currently I have super long nails because I've been really lazy and haven't trimmed them recently. I'm considering making a nail care video, so let me know if I should wait to trim them for that video. Back to the design. For the red, I'm using Left on Red by Holo Taco, and I had to use 2 coats in order to fully cover the design. For the black, I used 1 coat black, and I actually struggled a lot with making the club design because the 3 circles was really challenging to draw together. I ended up doing 3 tries until I got something that I liked. Is he licking himself? One of the problems of painting any design with nail polish is nail polish will thicken when exposed to air and will gloop up or make nail polish strings. One hack I've seen in the past is painting directly on the nail with black acrylic paint, but it was 6:30 at night on a school night and I didn't really feel like looking for my acrylic paint, and I just decided to press on with nail polish. So I waited about 5 minutes for the polish to dry in front of a fan, and then I went in and surrounded the design with top coat. You want to fully cover the design, but you don't want to make it too thick because that could potentially lead to an unintentional 3D effect on the nail. And while we waited about an hour for these to dry, I had Indian food with my husband and we watched some YouTube. Next, you want to grab a pair of tweezers and gently peel the sticker off of the silicone mat. You have to be very careful to make sure you don't accidentally rip the sticker while you're doing the peeling motion. My recommendation is just try to gently press underneath the edge in order to lift it up just enough to be able to peel it off. You could also try bending the silicone mat, as that can free an edge to allow you to be able to peel it. And another quick hack, I only wanted 1 of the clubs, so I didn't need any of the others that I drew because they were bad. So you can use a lint roller to easily pick up dried polish on a silicone mat. If you don't have a lint roller in your nail polish mess like I do, I highly recommend you to get one. Next up, you want to try to trim the stickers so they're about the same size as the design itself. If you make the sticker a little too large, you run the chance of potentially having it lift at the edges or not fully get secured onto the nail. For the background of the card design, I went in with Ivory Tower and used 2 coats to get to full opacity. I also painted Ivory Tower on my thumb for what I'm going to do on that finger later. And like always, I had to play my fun little game of find the liquid latex in my nail polish mess. Also, shout out to my girl Lil Simsy, who I watch while I paint. And because I needed to wait for the liquid latex to fully dry before I did that design, I moved on to the nail stickers on the other fingers. Yes, I literally had it on for like 4 hours. To add the stickers themselves, add a layer of top coat to give your nails something tacky for the stickers to adhere to. Then carefully put the sticker in its desired location and gently press it down with your finger in order to secure the sticker around the edges. Now, you usually don't have to worry about messing up your top coat when pressing the sticker down with your finger because you're gonna put another top coat anyways to seal the sticker in. But in my case, I made a massive dent in the base background layer while I was trying to nudge the sticker into place. Also, a lot of the edges were just not laying down flush with my nail, and I think it could be because I waited a little too long long for the stickers to dry and they were a little too firm to adhere nicely to my nail, or because my nail is super curved and I couldn't get the flat sticker to lay down on the curved nail. Like Glinda, I was determined to succeed, so I moved on to the other stickers for the rest of the hand. I tried less top coat, more top coat, only a blob of top coat just in the center, but every single one was lumpy, uneven, and looked like a steaming pile of sugar honey iced tea. And I tried to salvage these designs by going back in with some of Ivory Tower in order to try to make the blend between the sticker end and the nail a little bit more smooth by adding more and more and more polish. But the end result was just a lumpy mess that would have made Lumpy Space Princess jealous. Now, I don't know why this really happened, because normally when I make nail polish stickers, I'm pretty successful. I've done several examples of it, and it worked out and looked great. So, I don't know what happened. And even though it was already 7:30 p.m. on a school night, I said, Papa gotta make some content, and I pressed on. And so I decided to risk it for the biscuit and start over. That's why I'm exhausted today, because as of recording this, I painted yesterday, and today's my first day back to school from winter break, and my husband and I completely destroyed our sleep schedule, and I had to get up in order to teach at 7:30. And after 2 new coats of Ivory Tower, I added a top coat in order to help prevent smudging the base layer while freehanding the designs. Because these have geometric designs, I had to work really hard in order to make sure that they stayed symmetrical, and that just made this really difficult. Trying to focus on symmetry, I started with a central line that's going to form one side of the tip and the other side of the dip at the top of the heart. Then, little bits at a time, I added onto each side, trying to make little adjustments to make sure that it stayed as symmetrical as possible. And overall, the heart came out pretty good. Yes, Titan? Can I help you, sir? And for the diamond, I started the same way with that central line for symmetry and size, and then I made an upside down and a right side up V connecting the two.
Why didn't you just make like a cross?
In retrospect, I probably should have started with a cross and then connected the dots, but sometimes I just like making things more difficult for myself. You gotta be very careful and make sure that the two opposite sides of the diamond are as parallel as possible, otherwise it's gonna look like a wonky mess. And speaking of wonky, I'm taking some notes from Shrimply herself, and I am hunched over like a gargoyle while I'm painting these things, so please let me know if anyone has a hack of how to sit better while painting this, and my physical therapist will thank you. For the spade, I started with a similar process to the heart because it is an upside down heart, but that central line extends a little bit further through the butt of the heart. And that part has a little diamond onto it in order to match the spade shape. I think I made this one a little too small in comparison to the other nails, but I was worried about symmetry while I was just building it up a little bit more, so I left it on the slightly smaller side and decided to put a more complicated design over it later. And I think I'm realizing right now that I did a totally different order for the symbols on the first try and second try. Whoops. For the club, I started with an upside down T for the central line. Hoping it would make each circle easier, I grabbed a dotting tool, but
nail polish strings.
oh no, it looks horrible. But like Alphabet, I won't let this bring me down, so I went back in with Ivory Tower and tried to cover it up as best as possible. And low-key, you could stop here and it would be a totally cute manicure, but it's Balatro time. In the background of boss battles, yes, there are boss battles in this game, there's a swirl of color, and I wanted to try emulating that with my faking water marble Mush hack. You start by placing blobs of polish on your silicone mat and then swirl them with your brush. I'm using Dark Night of the Soul and the Arsonist by Mooncat to match the red and blue background of the main game screen. Then, normally, you pick it up with a stamping tool and press it down into the nail, but oh my god, it looks horrible! Now I know I've said this already, but I promise that I've had this technique be successful before, so I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I think it could be because I used Ivory Tower as the back layer. Typically, you're supposed to choose one of the polishes that you're going to mush together to be the background layer, but I decided white because these two are a little sheer, and I thought that it would help the opacity of it. And also, the background screen has some white segments in it of extra highlights between the blur, so I thought that it would stand out and look well. So because once again, something went wrong with this manicure, I decided to fake the fake water marble technique by painting a marbling directly on the nail. For the drag marble technique, you place blobs of polish directly on the nail quickly together so that way they don't dry at all, and then use a small paintbrush in order to create a swirl design between the colors. You do have to be careful because you can accidentally push away too much of the polish and show the background layer, but I intentionally did that because I wanted some of the lighter spots of the background layer to show through the swirl. And the point of the liquid latex is to prevent making a mess around the nail, but once again, in my case, it decided to go everywhere and I had to clean it up with my cleanup brush dipped in a little bit of acetone. Now there were some gaps on the side of my nail, so I went in with my small brush and just covered those. Overall, I think it's pretty spot on to the game, and even though it was a struggle, I'm pretty proud of the end result. And speaking of Balatro, one of the reasons why I find it so much fun is because the cards are not just regular playing cards. You can add multipliers, and holographic, and silver foil onto all of them in order to make the game more interesting, and I wanted to emulate that with toppers on what I already drew on my other 4 fingers. So since you can make cards holographic, even though we'll not talk about the fact that it's actually iridescent, I know simply you're crying somewhere, probably Canada, which is why I added a linear Holo Taco over the heart. I intentionally picked this one to have the linear holo over it because in case the red was going to blur, it would look like a cool bleeding heart instead of just fully ruining one of the designs. For the club, I decided to go in with some silver Flake Taco because you can make foil cards. Once again, I intentionally put the silver foil here because there was so much dimensionality by going in and covering the strings.
Nail polish strings.
And I thought that the texture of the silver flake would hide that. For the diamond, it's what's called a bonus card, which has these 2 blue lines on either side with arrows that run anti-parallel. I made the 2 lines by using board meeting by Holo Taco and then went in and tried to carefully make the arrows as even as possible. I specifically chose the diamond to get the blue because the diamond in and of itself is a more basic design, so I thought by adding another color, it would add a little bit more interest to this specific nail. I also chose this blue multiplier specifically so that way it could tie back in with the blue on the thumb. Finally, the spade was modeled after the multi-card multiplier, which has these black and red diagonally cracked lines across it. And for some reason, now was the time that I decided to take out my slightly longer brush in order to paint straight lines. I don't know why I didn't do that sooner, I really should have, but it helped me be able to make those lines as neat as possible. I also tried to leave a gap between the spade and the lines, because even though in the game they fully overlap, I didn't want to lose the detail and the hard work that I put into the spade with this topper over it. And also there's these little like circle seals that you can add to cards too to do extra multipliers, so I added a red one onto the club and a blue one onto the heart in order to just tie the entire manicure together. And finally, I waited an hour for the top coat and it didn't blur. It didn't blur. I can't believe it didn't blur. I hope it was because I was really cognizant when I was painting it, and I tried to bounce the top coat over some of the designs, because if you just pull the top coat, it can accidentally pick up the polish and drag it and create streaks. And finally, after 10 p.m. on a school night, the Balatro manicure was complete. And we're gonna fully ignore that I also played Balatro until 11 p.m. So let me know what you think of the manicure in the comments below. I don't really know if there's an audience for a video like this because it's a super niche intersection between nail painting, wannabe cowboys, and indie video games. But let me know if there's any other video game nail art you'd like me to see. I really want to try a Sims manicure, but I don't really know what that would look like besides just a bunch of plumb bobs, which I think could get really boring. And I know I want to do a Pokemon manicure using design motifs from various Pokemon. But don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it helps out a lot. Okay, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.